Section 4 of The Girl from the Marshcroft by Selma Lagerlöf. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Reading by Lars Rolander. The Girl from the Marshcroft, Chapter 4. Gudmund thought that he had loved Hildur until the day when she exacted from him the promise that Helga should be sent away from Närlunda. At least up to that time there was no one whom he had esteemed more highly than Hildur. No other young girl, to his thinking, could come up to her. It had been a pleasure for him to picture a future with Hildur. They would be rich and looked up to, and he felt instinctively that the home Hildur managed would be good to live in. He liked also to think that he would be well supplied with money after he had married her. He could then improve the land, rebuild all the tumble-down houses, extend the farm, and be a real landed proprietor. The same Sunday that he had walked home from church with Helga, he had driven over to Älvåkra in the evening. Then Hildur had started talking about Helga and had said that she wouldn't come to Närlunda until that girl was sent away. At first Gudmund had tried to dismiss the whole matter as a jest, but it was soon obvious that Hildur was in earnest. Gudmund pleaded Helga's cause exceedingly well, and remarked that she was very young when first sent out to service, and it was not strange that things went badly when she came across such a worthless fellow as Per Mårtensson. But since his mother had taken her in hand, she had always conducted herself well. "It can't be right to push her out," said he. "Then perhaps she might meet with misfortune again." But Hildur would not yield. "If that girl is to remain at Närlunda, then I will never come there," she declared. "I cannot tolerate a person of that kind in my home." "You don't know what you are doing," said Gudmund. "No one understands so well as Helga how to care for mother. We have all been glad that she came to us. Before she came, mother was often peevish and depressed." "I shall not compel you to send her away," said Hildur. But it was clear that if Gudmund were to take her at her word, in this instance, she was ready to break the engagement. "It will probably have to be as you wish," said Gudmund. He did not feel that he could jeopardize his whole future for Helga's sake. But he was very pale when he acquiesced, and he was silent and low-spirited the entire evening. It was this which had caused Gudmund to fear that perhaps Hildur was not altogether what he had fancied her. He did not like, I dare say, that she had pitted her will against his, but the worst of it was that he could not comprehend anything else than that she was in the wrong. He felt that he would willingly have given in to her had she been broad-minded, but instead it seemed to him she was only petty and heartless. Once his doubts were awakened, it was not long before he perceived one thing and another which were not as he wished. "Doubtless she is one of those who think first and foremost of themselves," he muttered every time he parted from her. And he wondered how long her love for him would last if it were put to the test. He tried to console himself with the idea that all people thought of themselves first. But instantly Helga flashed into his mind. He saw her as she stood in the courtroom and snatched the Bible, and heard how she cried out, "I withdraw the suit. I'm still fond of him, and I don't want him to swear falsely." It was thus he would have Hildur. Helga had become for him a standard by which he measured people, though certainly there were many who were equal to her in affection. Day by day he thought less of Hildur, but it did not occur to him that he should relinquish his prospective bride. He tried to imagine his discouragement was simply an idle whim. Only a few weeks ago he regarded her as the best in the world. Had this been at the beginning of the courtship, he would have withdrawn perhaps, but now the banns were already published and the wedding day fixed, and in his home they had begun repairing and rebuilding. nor did he wish to forfeit the wealth and the good social position which awaited him. What excuse could he offer for breaking the engagement? That which he had to bring against Hildur was so inconsequential that it would have turned to air on his lips had he attempted to express it. But the heart of him was often heavy, and every time he had an errand down to the parish or the city, he bought ale or wine at the shops to drink himself into a good humor. When he had emptied a couple of bottles, he was again proud of the marriage and pleased with Hildur. Then he didn't understand what it was that pained him. Gudmund often thought of Helga and longed to meet her, but he fancied that Helga believed him a wretch because he had not kept a promise which he voluntarily made her, but had allowed her to go away. He could neither explain nor excuse himself, therefore he avoided her. One morning when Gudmund was walking up the road, he met Helga, who had been down in the village to buy milk. Gudmund turned about and joined her. She didn't appear to be pleased with his company and walked rapidly, as if she wished to get away from him, and said nothing. Gudmund, too, kept still because he didn't quite know how he should begin the conversation. A vehicle was seen on the road far behind. Gudmund was absorbed in thought and did not mark it, but Helga had seen it and turned abruptly to him. "It is not worth your while to be in my company, Gudmund, for unless I see wrongly, it is the juryman from Älvåkra and his daughter who come driving back there." Gudmund glanced up quickly, recognized the horse, and made a movement as if to turn back. But the next instant he straightened up and walked calmly at Helga's side until the vehicle had passed. Then he slackened his pace. Helga continued to walk rapidly, and they parted company without his having said a word to her. But all that day he was better satisfied with himself than he had been in a long while. End of section 4. Read by Lars Rolander.